What's up, YouTube fam? This is your girl, Mrs. Tony Two Times, and we back with another video. Let's hear from tonight's sponsor, and then we'll jump right into it. This video is brought to you by Cool Green Clothing. Cool Green Clothing is a Baltimore-based clothing line that started back in 2018 and has been growing strong ever since. Make sure you follow Cool Green Clothing on Facebook and IG at Cool Green Clothing, and check out their website, coolgreenclothing.com, where you can find the latest cool green fashions and hats, women's apparel, and the latest men's collection. Remember, if you ain't coolin' and getting the green, you're in the way.
Yeah, shout out my nigga Cool Green on the fit though. Got me drippy, you heard?
Oh man, check out my man, yo, you feel me? Yo, be getting me right, you feel me? Big clothing for real, you feel me? Come with everything for real, I'm grabbing everything for my man, yo, you feel me? Shout out to my man, yo, you feel me? Support, you heard? Yes, sir.
Cool Green right here, Sadie. Cool Green, you already know downtown B-More, that's where we at. You already know representing New York, Harlem shit right here, uptown. But we downtown right now. You see that? My man, yo, come and get my man Cool Green. Rock it, you see it. I'm gonna make it look good for niggas to get. Betty, sales is going up today because of the Cool Greens.
And I'm telling you, follow Cool Green Clothing. It's so important for us to support our entrepreneurs. There's so much talent in Baltimore. And as a creative entrepreneur myself, I know how hard it is. And I love to see just people going out there and going for their dreams. So let's get it. Bless up.
In this episode of The Baltimore Way, we're going to be talking about Geraldine Parrish. She is a self-ordained storefront preacher from East Baltimore with a superiority complex. She was convicted in 1989 for the murder of 4 friends and relatives in order to cash in on their life insurance policies. She also was convicted in the botched attempt to kill her 29-year-old niece, and she married at least 8 men, 4 within 18 months. Now, Geraldine was raised in rural North Carolina, and she claimed to be illiterate but acted as a minister in Baltimore. Not much is known about Geraldine's early life. Her family was poor, and she had several brothers and sisters. In her youth, Geraldine began attending church, where she became acquainted with the teachings of Catholicism. Later on, she developed an interest in the religions practiced by people in Central and West Africa, particularly Santeria and Voodoo. As years passed, she studied deeper into the religious aspects and rituals, and eventually came to practice them. Since the 1970s, she has portrayed herself to be a member of clergy, but there's no supporting evidence of her position in any religion. In the late 1970s, Geraldine began to show signs of that superiority complex and began to exhibit deviant behavior towards her friends and relatives. In the early 1980s, she developed a get-rich-quick scheme by receiving insurance benefits via life insurance policies. For this reason, Parrish urged her relatives, friends, and acquaintances to make different life insurance policies that made her the only beneficiary in the event of an untimely death. In order to get said benefits, Geraldine planned out several killings in the mid-1980s. The first victim was 46-year-old Frank Lee Ross, a friend of one of Geraldine's sisters, who was shot dead on November 12, 1985. This murder was committed by 20-year-old Edwin Gordon, whom Geraldine paid more than $2,000 to commit the killing. On October 6, 1986, Albert Robinson and Parrish's brother Ronald Brown were killed by Lionel Robinson, no relation. And on March 6, 1987, 65-year-old Helen Wright, Geraldine's housekeeper, was also murdered. After her death, Geraldine received more than $10,000 from life insurance and Social Security checks. This murder was also committed by Gordon, who also received a reward of $2,000. 6 months later, Parrish arranged a plan to execute her niece, 29-year-old Dolly Brown, for whom Geraldine was the beneficiary of an insurance policy worth more than $10,000. In September 1987, Edwin attacked the girl and her boyfriend, 37-year-old Ronald, during which Ronald was shot dead. Brown survived and went on to survive 2 more attempts on her life. An assailant slit her throat on March 6, 1988, and on May 19, 1988, she was shot 3 times in the head, but again, she survived those attacks. The 3 attempts on her niece's life is what led to Geraldine's arrest, along with her 2 other co-conspirators and contract killers, Edwin Gordon and Lionel Robinson. Now, on May 10, 1989, Geraldine, 52 at the time, was sentenced for one of the most bizarre murders in Baltimore's history. She was accused of killing 48-year-old New Jersey resident Albert Robinson. Now, Geraldine Parrish recruited 19-year-old Lionel Robinson, who is not related to the victim, to pull the trigger, and her 21-year-old niece, known as Renee Burns, also known as Bouncer, to lure the victim to his demise. Now, throughout her childhood, Parrish's niece, Renee Burns, had quietly listened behind closed doors when she was supposed to be asleep, hearing family members whisper rumors about the sinister ways of her Aunt Geraldine. The opinions of the family, as well as those of the congregation of the storefront church in which Geraldine Brown Parrish served as minister or prophetess, were divided among those that thought of her as the sweet and caring shepherd of her church flock, and others who were deathly afraid of her voodoo practices and thought that a darker side was behind her exterior personality. When Renee became older, she was taken in by confidence by her Aunt Geraldine. The discussions her and her aunt had made Renee realize for the first time that many of the family's accusations of murder for insurance imposed against Aunt Geraldine might actually contain some level of truth. Although Renee had no concrete proof of her aunt's involvement, she was becoming increasingly convinced that Parrish was capable of executing for money. Renee eventually started to believe that Geraldine did in fact commit these crimes and lived well off in the insurance benefits she received as a sole beneficiary of her victims. It was a combination of these informed hunches as well as what she saw. Renee would see her Aunt Geraldine with large sums of cash, designer clothes, flashy automobiles, and everything that consisted of a luxurious lifestyle. Aunt Geraldine surrounded herself with the finer things in life, and that shaped Renee's decision to assist her aunt in the murderous deeds. Those were the reasons that Renee gave for deciding to adopt her mother's sister as her role model, thinking that maybe she too could have some of the finer things in life. From the time she was approached with an opportunity to make some big cash, she said she knew that she was interested in having some of the material things that she saw her aunt have. She had stuff. Therefore, she was the best person in the world to show me how to get these things for myself, said Renee. Renee went on to say that as for the multiple marriages without ever divorcing, and the baby selling, and the incest, torture, and satanic rites involved in what Aunt Geraldine represented to some people, I didn't get that picture. Not at all, once anyway. Those things were slowly revealed to me about my aunt, and for that matter, my entire family, Renee said. Renee continued on and said she was approached by her Aunt Geraldine at the age of 18. Now, at the time of this interview that Renee gave, she was 21 years old. And this is the account of the night that she went to New Jersey with her aunt. She said, Aunt Geraldine called my house where I was living with my mother and stepfather and asked that I meet her to discuss something that she called important. The only thing that she would say over the telephone is that she wanted me to ride to New Jersey with her so that she could go to the bank. When she came to the house, she said that she wanted to go at night, and I thought it was awfully strange that she would be going to the bank at night. I mean, after all, what bank is open at night? Renee said that her aunt told her to get one of those guys that she knew and persuaded them to travel with them, and the money would be good for both him and her. Renee said she kept making cracks about how we spent our time on small potatoes, like minor drug deals, when she could show us how to make some real big cash if we hung with her. Now, Lionel Robinson was the man Renee chose to accompany them on their bizarre journey to New Jersey. Renee said the reason why my aunt wanted us to go to New Jersey was to execute Albert Robinson. Once again, no relation to Lionel. For her, she painted a picture of Robinson as a tired, old, useless wino who would make an ideal victim for us because he would be easy prey and he would not be missed by too many folks. Her niece Renee said, like she did with all her victims, Aunt Geraldine first became the beneficiary of their life insurance policies, adding them to the list of persons from which she could later tap for needed funds when she killed them and later collected their insurance. Geraldine's niece also stated that another tactic used by Parrish was to marry her victims and later collect their life insurance money. It was easier to collect if they had a connection like marriage. Renee said when people asked her how and why she got into something like this, she said people have to understand that she grew up with these people. This was her aunt. Her stepfather had stopped speaking to her because of the incident. Renee's mother never married her stepfather because he was legally married to her Aunt Geraldine the entire 15 years that he lived with her mother as man and wife. Now, Renee's mom died in 1987, and Geraldine promptly went to jail where her father was and told him that she had poisoned her mother, causing the death. From then on, her father stopped having anything to do with her, Renee said. The combination of the trial and her testimony at the trial and the fact that Geraldine told her stepfather that she murdered her mother by giving her some poison orange juice made her run scared since the trial started. Renee was eventually indicted as a co-conspirator in the first Parrish murder along with Lionel Robinson. Renee decided to cooperate with the police against her aunt. She had a 16-month-old child at the time and was allegedly in witness protection because she feared retaliation from her aunt, possibly in the form of a voodoo ritual or having her executed. Renee was anticipating to testify against her aunt in the murder case and others. Now, subsequently, Geraldine was suspected of committing several more murders after it became clear that 77-year-old Rayfield Gillard died in February 1988, 15 days after marrying Geraldine. He had left his home, money, and social benefits amounting to $440 per month in a life insurance policy, which Geraldine began receiving a month after his death. The death certificate stated that Gerald had died from a cardiovascular disease, but there is no record in his medical history that he had ever had any heart problems. A close friend and family members of his said he had no pre-existing history of a heart condition and was fine prior to his death. Geraldine Parrish, the preacher and the prophetess, the voodoo priestess, hired a gunman, Edwin Gordon, and pled guilty to killing 3 people and attempting to kill 3 others to collect on their life insurance policies in a Baltimore Circuit Court in 1989. These were some of the most unbelievable killings, said a Baltimore prosecutor who tried the case. He said he just couldn't believe how vicious and cold-blooded these people were. Now, Parrish, who at one moment faked insanity and claimed to be illiterate, was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences and 6 concurrent life sentences. Edwin Gordon, her accomplice, already was serving life without parole for a separate contract murder, and he received 6 concurrent life sentences. Now, it's not said what happened to Lionel Robinson, but I'm assuming that he either got jail time or maybe went into a witness protection program for, testifying against Geraldine. Now, from November 1985 to May 1988, Geraldine cashed out on $39,000 worth of life insurance benefits from her friends and her sister's common law husband being among the victims. Now, in a later article, it was revealed a nephew who married Geraldine said he had been placed under her spell by a North Carolina root woman who believed had doctored a meal of barbecue goat meat. Yes, she married her nephew. We talked about incest. Crazy, right? So in another twist, authorities searching in the Mount Zion Cemetery for the body of Rayford Gillard had actually exhumed the wrong body, not once, but twice. So everybody thought that was absolutely crazy that they couldn't exhume the correct body for whatever they needed the body for. Geraldine Parrish served multiple life sentences as a prisoner at the Maryland Correctional Institute for Women in Jessup. A few of the people that were incarcerated with her said that in the mid-90s, Miss Geraldine was a very strange, bossy woman still attempting to wield power while she was locked up. Another person had commented and said if that they didn't play pinochle with her, she would get really upset. Geraldine did end up passing away in 2001 at the Maryland Correctional Institute for Women. According to an inmate there, at the time of her death, the compound was sad and showed a lot of mixed emotions. They said they all did because at the end of the day, she was human and she just made some really bad choices. Now, I don't know about that because Geraldine was a pretty cold-blooded lady and she had no remorse for any of her victims, which were family and friends. So guys, tell me what you think about this crazy story. Make sure you leave your comment down below. Give this video a thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm and supports the channel. Hit that subscribe button and tap that notification bell so you can stay up to date with recent uploads. This your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm out.